Thank you very much, Senator Durbin. Thank you very much, Director Clements, for being here. I have one focus today, and that is to get this bill done. And I appreciate that Chair Durbin has called this hearing so we can talk about oversight. And I appreciate the information and the information that I know will be forthcoming in answer to some of the questions. But enough is enough. A year ago, for Cops Week, we passed amendments to the program, and we still have not marked up this program, despite having Ranking Member Graham supporting the bill, Senator Tillis, Senator Coons, many others have stated their support. It is long overdue. Yes, we get appropriations year after year. That's why you're in business, and we'll get to your good work and what you're doing. But at some point, we have to actually reauthorize this program and make very clear where we stand. The communities in my state, listen, I am supportive of Senator Booker's efforts on reform. A number of pieces of legislation, as you know, have passed in states across the country and in cities and the like, and it's very important. I come from the state where George Floyd was murdered. But at the same time, what I am seeing right now is a lack of law enforcement in the very communities that we need to help the most. They want law enforcement. In my state, in the city of Minneapolis, they had a vote on defund, and it was the communities of color that opposed defunding the police because they understood that they needed the funding. This program that you oversee adds funding to help the police. I was reminded of how important this is at a funeral that I attended of Burnsville police officers, as you know, who were just murdered in cold blood. Paul Elmstead, Matthew Ruge, as well as paramedic Adam Finseth. You know what they did? They were called to a scene in the middle of the night, and they got 7 kids out of a house in a horrible, chaotic situation. And then they were killed, and the paramedic was killed trying to rescue one of the police officers. They were heroes. So I don't think for 1 minute we should forget the officers every single day who go to work and put their own lives on the line. Reform, yes. Accountability, yes. But at some point, with the recruitment problems we're having, with the retention problems we're having, particularly in major cities in this country, we need, on a bipartisan basis, to stand with a program that does not involve increased criminal penalties. It has been a program for decades that has basically just said, we're going to help local communities to get some more police officers on the street and to bring down crime. Last year, nearly 400 different law enforcement officers relied on the COPS grant program to hire over 1,700 full-time law enforcement officers. And since its inception, the COPS hiring program has helped fund 138,000 law enforcement officers. So my first question of you, Director Clements, is can you speak of the severity of the ongoing recruitment and retention crisis nationally, which, by the way, big time includes rural areas. As people are poaching each other, they have no choice because less people are going into law enforcement. Could you talk about the ongoing recruitment and retention crisis and how the COPS hiring grants are essential to keep these departments afloat?
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for your continued support of the work that we do in the COPS office and this entire committee. Thank you for your support. It's invaluable to the field. And so this convening session that we were tasked to run, along with our colleagues on the OJP side, BJA, we ran that convening session that put out some very good practical guidance to municipal leaders and police leaders on how to beef up their recruitment efforts and how to sustain retaining officers who are in their communities. And we looked with a wide lens from small and rural organizations to big, large cities like with tens of thousands of police officers. And the guidance in that publication is invaluable. And I think it will lead to greater numbers going forward, including looking at it with a wide lens, like looking at maybe take-home cars for officers, maybe relocation costs for the officers. Certainly an issue is salary and benefits in updating their collective bargaining agreements in certain communities where, I mean, police officers want to work in a community where they're supported both by messaging, and they want to work in an agency where they're supported by benefits and salaries for the difficult work they do in their communities.
You speak to, there have been a number of studies that show having the police officers there, giving them tools and technology they need, the training, which we know based on some of these cases around the country is critical. Multiple studies demonstrate that investments in police department through the COPS grant are associated with reductions in crime. Can you speak to how the evidence demonstrates that investing in law enforcement through COPS grants reduces crime?
So there have been several pieces of research and evaluations that have identified that, and I believe that, you know, and we certainly can forward all of them to this committee, members of this committee and your staff. And I will tell you, as far as the training, we do, in the COPS office, it's a three-legged stool. It's grants, so it's not only financial assistance to agencies around the country, but it's training and technical assistance, and probably most important are the publications and resources that we put out to agencies around the country. That has been a valuable tool, not only to police leaders, police agencies, but to communities. And at the end of providing all of these resources, we do surveys. And the data has been astounding as to the value received by police officers receiving that training. And the feedback from communities has been strong.
Very good. Senator Graham, now one last question here. Senator Graham asked you about fentanyl, and I have looked at this, and I know that you have been able to use, without amending the program, that you've been able to use the anti-heroin task force, COPS anti-meth program toward investigations into fentanyl as well. Is that right?
That is correct. So the anti-heroin, anti-methamphetamine, and it does include fentanyl as well, and it's harming to a significant degree communities around this country.
Exactly. Okay, I want to thank Senator Murkowski for leading this bill with me, our members who've been supportive. It's time to get it marked up. And I'll just end by, at that funeral service for those officers and that firefighter, the police chaplain spoke, and he actually said, despite how difficult it is to be in policing right now, and given the solemn moment we're out of this memorial service, it is still a career worth going into, and asked young people to join the police force in the name of those three men. So that's what I carry with me, and that is what my mission is, to get this bill done. Wall reform efforts continue to go on across the country. But all this bill is about is making sure these grants go out and getting the information from you, which I know that you have, on the effect it has on reducing crime, the huge need right now we have for retention, as well as any other information we need. I know you do a lot of collecting of information. I hope we can get it to the members, and we can go on and mark up this bill and just stop talking about it and stop saying how supportive we are when we won't even vote for this basic federal program that has been working. So let's stop amending it and start actually passing it.
Senator Blackburn.